family absolutely had a business plan. The plan looked like this, okay? Definitely that big. They ended up going for more than, on the one pager, they talked about asking between $300,000 and $1 million. They're actually in their second round of funding and have obtained $3.5 million. So on the second slide on this page, this is the only time as an entrepreneur that you're going to be asked to be pessimistic. Typically, entrepreneurs are very optimistic. You know, it's can-do attitude. Of course I can succeed. Of course I can launch this business. Of course I can do what I'm saying. Of course I'm going to make at least that much money, if not more. I'm going to, you know, conquering the world with this great idea that I have. That's great. Don't lose that. But for this exercise, you actually have to tone yourself back. You have to play your own devil's advocate. You can't do it. You need to actually get other people involved and bounce the idea off of them so that you take that most absurdly conservative projection and you apply what's called the factor 3 on it. So you dream of success, you plan for struggle. You take 3 times the expected capital plus 3 times the expected effort plus 3 times the expected time. So if you think you're going to spend $100,000 in startup, it's called $300,000, right? If you think it's going to take 3 people to do it, it's going to take 9. If you think it's going to take 3 months, it's going to take 9 months to do it. And then after all of that, you apply a quarter and you say you're only going to get 25% of your expected result. So work your plan and then ratchet it back. That's the way to do it because you want to be ultra conservative. You want to do that because as you're going through this process, what you're going to want to do is mitigate all of the risks that could possibly happen, right? Because things do happen. If you look at the components within a business plan, there's 2 major pieces. There's a narrative, and then there's financial statements. The narratives are going to be taught, right? They're well formulated. There's actually 150 questions in the second handout. We'll talk about that in a second. There's over 150 questions that you should ask and answer yourself as it pertains to this business. Writing counts, grammar counts. These are very educated people that are going to be reading this document. You should thank your English teachers now if they've done their job well, because this is a very important document. The way that it's structured, the way that it flows, it should flow smoothly. Financial worksheets, at a minimum, you're going to want to do a 12-month profit and loss. Cash flows for at least 3 years in projections. If you're internet or web-based or anything having to do with high tech, 3 years is the max. It used to be 5. Nobody knows what's going to happen in year 4 and year 5. So they discount those to the point where now they're not even necessary. We talked about cash flow. We'll look at what that looks like in a second. And then a break-even calculation pretty much says, at what point in time have I exhausted all of the money that I put into it, and am I now making money, right? So I broke even, and I'm pushing forward. As far as the value, it's a structured process. There's 150 questions. Everyone asks and answers the same questions when they're creating a business plan. The value of doing this is not because you have to. It's not because the bank requires it. It's not because mom or dad will need you to kind of articulate what sort of idea you've got before they hand over a check. The reason is that by researching and thinking about the business plan, it's in that way that you go about it systematically, all right? Businesses succeed for a reason. They succeed for a reason because they've thought through the process. What is it going to take? When do I inject more capital? When do I have to hire more people? What kind of skills do those people have? Where are my offices? How much do I have to pay? All of that sort of thing comes into the process because what you don't want to have in business are surprises. You want to be acting according to the plan that you've written. A business plan is a living document. It's not something you write and then throw away. You refer to it back again. You look at the budget that you created for yourself and you start to say, hey, did I make that budget? Did I do better? Are my sales above or below that? Am I supposed to be ratcheting up faster than I had originally planned? Maybe it's time for me to start interviewing people. So before you begin, you look at, and we'll talk about that one in more detail in a second, you want to fine-tune that plan, and then you want to get ready to make a presentation to investors. They are going to require the document, And then they are going to ask that you walk them through the document, that you present that information to them. They want all the detail, they'll refer to it as necessary, but they're gonna want you to prove to them that you are that type of person, because you're selling yourself as well. You're selling an idea of the company, you're selling yourself, and that you can actually make this thing happen, you can succeed. So when we look at the playtime business plans, what you're saying is, please invest $1.5 million in my company and in me, right? Because if I'm the one standing in front of you today, and I'm the one that's asking for money, I have to prove to you that I've got what it takes. I've either got the background, the expertise, or I've got that power, right, that an entrepreneur has, and I can win you over. How long is it gonna take? Typically, it takes several weeks. If it takes you a couple of days, you did it wrong. Most of the time is spent researching the market. We'll talk about the types of research that's done, and make the time do the job properly. Make sure that you're doing it. Make sure that you've got a lot of people reviewing the document as you're going through it. Those who do a business plan never regret doing it. It makes you think through a lot of stuff. It makes you more educated just starting on day one because you've thought it through. Always make sure you take detailed notes as you're going through the process and make all of your research. On the next page, cash flow projections. 1 to 5 year plan with top line goals. The 2 pages that follow that one have 2 samples. One is a cash flow, a monthly cash flow, and you can see the pieces that go into a cash flow, right? So you've got your receipts and what you're paying out. So I've got sales coming in, I've got revenue that I'm generating, and I have expenses that I have to pay. Some of them are fixed, some of them aren't fixed, right? Some of them are variable, but I'm going to have to identify all of them, put a line item in there, and then stick with it. And then ultimately, what are you paying out total in cash? And then the biggest one, which is what's left over, right? So that's your cash flow. The next page, sample, is a sales forecast. This one is another one of the key financial ones. And whether you're a service or a product-based company, you're gonna have different categories, right? What are you selling? How are you generating sales? Whether it's hot dogs, right? Or it's internet services. You're going to have to articulate what is every service that I have, what is the pricing model that I have in place, and how many of them am I going to sell every month, and therefore what are my total sales, right? Any questions? I want to get to this document. This is the one that's most important.
I think we have one question.
Yes.
When you said aim for 3 times the budget, do you pitch to the investment bankers 3 times what you need, or you just think that in your head, like, I really need more than that?
Well, when you go through the process, yeah, there's 2 ways to do it. Well, first of all, you need to be really conservative as you're going through it, right? Because what you don't want to do is go back to a set of investors and say, I just chewed up your 1.5 million, can I have 3 more, right? Because what that proved to them is you didn't know what you were doing with the 1.5. Their answer to your second question would be no. They'll cut their losses and walk away. The fact that you can't get that second round of funding from the first VC fund, will kind of cut you off at the knees. So what you want to do is be very realistic. Oftentimes, you estimate that expense. You might pad it a little bit, but what I think is the better way to do it is to actually have a whole other line item that's called a contingency, which is a bucket, if in the event something else happens. So you just kind of cubby away money in this line item that proves to, because the other thing that you have to think about is these companies, whether they're banks or venture capital or people who invest in companies, they've done this before. So if you have a line item for rent and you suggest that it's $50,000, they're going to look at you and go, it's ridiculous. So your numbers have to be realistic. You can pad them a little bit, but better is to have a contingency line that says, things do happen. Things happen in the economy. Things happen with suppliers and people that I'm sourcing product from. I want to have this line item in there that hopefully I won't use, but if in the event I need it, you understand that I have it in